So we're gonna do some foam rolling. I love showing up early. It's kind of my jam. Gonna use the trigger point ball a little bit today. And this time we're gonna use the trigger point ball. We're 5 minutes early. We're gonna do mobility, we're gonna move, but we always like to spend a little bit of time on Mondays finding the tighter spots. So I played in a golf tournament yesterday, and I also rode my bike. So it's natural that I'd be a little bit tight through the chest and through the front side of the body. So a big part of mobility is taking the time to use different tools that are available to us. And you can use a lacrosse ball. I remember in the old days before they invented these softer this is a pretty multi-dimensional ball because it's kind of softer on the ends and it's a little bit harder in the middle. It's very subtle, but it's a good little tool that kind of makes the lacrosse ball look a little bit more like a torture device. This one's just got a little more surface area to it, so it's less pinny, so you get less of a pain response. There are definitely people who do what I do that have that different philosophy and thought process around discomfort and tissue release. I'm from the school of thought that says if there is a pain response, your tissue probably won't let go in the same way that it would if it was just more of a gentle response. So if body weight, like you can see, I'm holding a lot of my body weight off this ball, working through that front part of the shoulder, down into the biceps tendon a little bit. And then I can just rotate this hand to get a little bit of that flossing thought process. Get a little bit of pressure and then floss through the movement. Just move, right? Good. Let's do the same thing on the other side. You guys, we're 3 weeks out, a little bit less, from the Kona World Championships. I'm so excited. The men's race in Nice in September early, 15 days ago, was also super exciting. And now the men start gearing up for Kona next year. But we also had a huge weekend. The women's marathon record was broken in Berlin at 2 hours, 11 minutes, and I believe it was 53 seconds. It was just massive change, almost 2 minutes, if not 2 minutes. So those of you that are really super familiar, but that's a big milestone, really, to beat a world record. And it just shows you that once we start seeing what's possible, human beings are amazing. Like when Roger Bannister, I think he broke the 4-minute mile first, and then all of a sudden everyone else was breaking it. So once you see what's possible, it's amazing. And you want to be in position with the health of your body. Okay, let's take a foam roller. Since we're focusing up on the upper body, we worked through both shoulders using the trigger point ball. You could also use the foam roller. I usually will give the cue to point the end of the foam roller to the chin and to work through there. I think we just might have even done that last week. The next thing we want to do is where the bra line is for the ladies, or the heart rate monitor for the ladies, same thing, but the heart rate monitor line is kind of where we're going. And we're going to start up on the upside, right under the armpit. So we're working where the lat attaches, and we're just going to lay on it sideways and cross fiber. So drag the body across the foam roller, all the way up, and you just move it little by little. My lats are actually not too bad. Those of you that are big swimmers, you probably feeling a little bit not as happy as me right now. So you can open your chest up a little bit. Sometimes the lat, well, most of the time the lat will come down on the back like that. So just attach, working all their junction with the rib. Good. That's pretty darn good. Okay, same thing other side. We're cross fibering through the lats. So thumb is up here, and we're just putting that foam roller on the side of the rib cage under the armpit, right? So it's not up into the armpit, below it. And just cross fibering, drag the skin across the ribs. And then we move it up towards the armpit a little bit. And just keep working through that. And again, this is just a little bit of a fact-finding mission, like how am I doing? But for me, my lats, they feel pretty fine. If I'm swimming a lot, they don't feel fine. Okay, open up. If you did a big race this weekend, oh my gosh, we had ECFIT athletes racing in Augusta, Paula Finley for the win. We had an age grouper, Lindsay Caligaro, with a personal best at Ironman Chattanooga. I told her that was coming. So happy for both her and her coach, Patty. Let's see, who else? Oh, we had Karen Meadows running the Berlin Marathon. Did a massive qualification for Boston, as well as just having a really solid race. And I think when you really think about it, I mean, times and PBs are all really great, but at the same time, it's the fact that these people are super healthy and they're doing stuff, right? Times are great, personal bests are great, but at the same time, okay, before I get going at the same time, let's get that foam roller on the lateral aspect of the hip. Take the back foot to the front, take the front arm, and we just want to cross fiber through the lateral aspect of the hip. So we're kind of glute med and we're kind of TFL. All right, so we're kind of squishing it all together and we're cross fibering. So we're dragging the skin across the muscle, working on that myofascial muscle and fascia release. Now we're going to switch to a little osteofascia. So right on that hip bone, that bottom hip bone, use your leg and your arm to unweight your body weight, and then just work across the hip bone to make sure that you've got that glide going, okay? Same thing other side. If you're just joining us, welcome to Monday Mobility. Hope you had a great weekend. We started the day working through the chest, so definitely go back to the beginning and work through the chest. So the back foot's coming forward, hands coming forward, unweighting a little bit of our body weight, dragging the skin across the fascia and the muscle. Myofascial release, okay? It's very simple. Doesn't have to be complicated. As a matter of fact, I probably err on the side of too simple. All right, we're gonna roll that forward onto the bone, hip bone, onto the ASIS, anterior superior iliac spine of the pelvis. If this is not gliding, then your pelvis is gonna function as one piece. It's gonna rock and roll like this, as one piece instead of boop, boop, boop. That's what we want. That's the decoupling. So we're gonna work that last osteofascial release right on that pubic bone. So it sounds kind of weird, but it is really important that the tissue glide across that pubic symphysis, as well as the pubic ramus. Well, we're not on the ramus, but we're just on that pubic bone. And we want to make sure that there is gliding through the skin of the pubic bone, okay? So I think my hip bones felt pretty good. I'm not going to work through the back too much. I'm going to use the Viper today, not as a heavy tool, but as an example of looking and assessing ankle function. So we're going to take about the width of your hand away from, we pretend this is a wall, and we're going to keep the heel on the ground, and you should be able to get your knee over your toe a good 3 or 4 inches without your heel coming up. And that's going to show really good ankle function. If that's not happening for you with ease, there's a couple of things we can look at. We want to look at the softness of the front side of the ankle. There's a big retinaculum there that holds the ankle, holds all the tendons that support and facilitate great ankle motion, that can really get tight. And the talus bone that functions between the calcaneus and this tibia, the calcaneus being your heel bone, it needs to glide as well. So if you're not getting that kind of foot and knee and ankle angle, or you really have to struggle for it, we want to make sure we're working through all the tissue of the lower leg, and you want to find this softness in that retinaculum. So if it's just temporary in that it's in a response to a big weekend of training or racing, that's one thing. But over time, you want to make sure the heel can stay on the ground and the knee can go over the toe, touch a wall a good 3 or 4 inches when your foot is 3 or 4 inches away from the wall. The third way to really deal with that is I like to go to the chiropractor and have him just provide traction through my ankles and readjust the ankles, and it feels amazing. Okay, so we're gonna load the front line of the body through the psoas, and I'll take you sideways. So we're just gonna go hips to the front and then hips to the back. So we're toggling hips behind the heels and then try to get the hips in front, and we're just nice and easy. Toggle the hips to the back, toggle the hips to the front, toggle the hips to the back, toggle the hips to the front. Couple more, whoa, back, front. So we're working through the ankles with this as well, ankles and hips, good, and good. All right, let's decouple the hips a little bit. So we're gonna push the hips back and rotate that left side against the right, the shoulder follows the hip, and we're just gonna roll into that right side over and over, 3, 4, you get a little tightness in that trail side adductor, inner thigh. I think it's important that you know most of your anatomy, right? If I say the adductors, you should know that's your inner thigh. If I say your abductors, that's your outer thigh, that's your outer hip actually, right? So this side adductor and this side abductor, abductor, they need to be friends. So when we do stuff like this, activate, switch on, activate, eccentric load, lengthen, right? So this hip learns to get that signal. That's why the consistency, the signaling, the sequencing is so important, all right? Push your hips back, we're taking the right side hip, we're gonna load into the left side, so we're taking all the body weight on the left side, 2, 3, push your hips back, 4, and let this hip just drop across, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, ooh, ankle pop, 10. I think I talk about that every now and then. I'm like, ooh, I love it when the ankles pop, because that just shows you we're starting to wake the body up a little bit. Just usually it's a tendon going over another tendon, just like that. Okay, ready? We're gonna do that same toggle, hips to the front. We should be able to support ourselves through those lengthened hip flexors. We're gonna take hips to the front, left arm reach, come back. Then we're gonna go right arm reach. Come back. 3, 4, reach through the fingertips. So there's tension through the fingertips here. 5, 6, hips to the front, 7, opening the front fascial line of the body, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, so now, I think that's, for a lift, that's a really good hip hinge. And you can see my lumbar spine is stable and long. There's no movement through it, right? And when you're lifting and loading, the most important thing in my world is a great hip hinge. However, your spine is really made to flex and extend. So today, we're gonna tuck the chin. So we're starting from the head. We're gonna kind of round through the shoulders, and we're gonna round through the upper back. So now we're creating shortness on the front side of the spine, and we're just gonna let that go. And now we're going to just unwind it from the bottom. Coming up, coming up, coming up. We start to extend the spine, extend the spine, extend the spine, extend the head, look all the way to the back. All right? So we're going to work through that full potential of the spine from a loaded position. We're standing. This is a little bit harder than if we did it from the laying down position. Starts at the head. Tuck the chin. Kind of don't want to over round the shoulders, but tuck the chin and then start to slump into crappy posture, crappy posture, crappy posture. Let it roll. Let everything shorten. Ribs close to the hips. Take it down and then unwind it the other way. We're going to do one more of those. Tuck the chin. Upper back starts to round. Ribs come close to the hips. Hands, arms, weight of the arms, all the way to the toes. If you can get them to the ground, get them to the ground. And then unwind it. All the way up. Okay? All right, let's take an anchored stance. So that means we've got squared up on the outsides of the feet here. Okay, so don't overcook that. You don't want to be knock-kneed, but we want to have a bias to a little bit of internal rotation. And all we're going to do here is shift to the left with the hips, come back to center. Shift to the right with the hips, come back to center. Left. We've got a little bit of shoulder drop here so that the spine stays straight. We're just loading lateral hip. And back, woo, hip over, drop the shoulder. So if I didn't drop the shoulder, my spine would be this way, right? So drop the shoulder, load the hip, drop this left shoulder, load the right hip. Good, and good. Hip shifting, right? Next thing we want to do is ankle shifting. So you're going to take your nose forward and then back. Forward and then back. And you can feel your feet loading to the front. That's a shift. And back. Follow your nose, load to the front, maintain ribs to hips, come back. Shift. Shift. Hold your ribs and hips nice and strong. Shift. Okay, good. All right, let's go back to a narrow anchored stance. Right hand behind the head. We're going to load the right hip, drop the left arm, lift the right shoulder, come back. Hips going to the right, body's bending to the left. 2, 3, little shift. 4, elbows traveling up to the sky. 5, you want to get length through the lat. 6, 7, we're now loading the lateral line, the lateral fascial line of the body. If you're familiar with the works of Tom Myers and anatomy trains, it's what I think about pretty much day and night. Is all of the fascial tracks and trains that happen throughout the body. All right, same thing. Anchored stance, little bit of bias into internal rotation of the hips. Left arm up, right arm to the side. Left hip shift, left arm up. And back. Left hips shift. I can promise you that a lot of you, I can't see you and I wish I could, but a lot of you are struggling with this hip shift because of so much tightness through your TFL. Everybody keep going now. With that hip shift, side bend. So we want to have softness and neurological control through that shifting so that we truly can be stable and stabilize. But tightness is sometimes mistaken for stability. Huge conversation, right? Tightness is just tightness. There's not as much blood flow. There's not as much resiliency in those muscles. It's just tight. It's your body's way of saying, I'm going to protect you, right? but then it really puts you at risk to have tightness in muscles. Okay, we're gonna work in that same spinal flexion. So tuck the chin, let the shoulders fall. We've got a wide stance now. Drop everything, head drops. Drop all the way down, unwind it, come all the way back. So the head dictates a lot of what happens down low, okay? So right there, we've got a wide stance, anchored, heels are lateral of toes. Tuck the chin, let the shoulders round, push the hips back, all the way down to the ground. Look, let the weight of your head kind of pull down, and then you come all the way back up. Tuck your chin, round your spine, all the way down. Good. And then all the way back up. All right, good on you. Let's lay on your back. The spine is super important. Obviously, it is where the nervous system really originates, from the brain all the way through the spine and then out through all of the nerves. So the biggest thing is if the spine can move and be relaxed, then the signals to all of the muscles and the working joints and the balance in the body will be way happier, okay? All right, we're laying on the back. Just kind of always want to create space between the ribs and the hips so you're long in your torso. Arms out to the side. I got a little wall problem, but no big deal. Hopefully I have both arms out. And just let the hips, the knees roll to one side and then the other side. So right here, just a little bit of knee toggles, hip toggles. We use this one a lot when people are just training for big events at the end of a great training day, right? So we just want to be able to toggle, let this hip kind of come across. If you drive through the hip, the quad is very much going to be impacted, and he's going to feel that. Just nice and easy. Knee toggles side to side. Good and good. Okay, now as the knees go to the left, knees left, I want you to take your head and put your chin on your right shoulder. So knees to the left, chin on the right shoulder. Same thing other side, knees to the right, chin on your left shoulder. Knees left, head right. Knees right, head left. All right, good. All right, let's go into everybody's favorite stretch. Right foot on left knee. Ankle is just kind of hanging out right on the quad. Keep your head back. We're just going to grab through the hole and grab the left hamstring. And just hold that nice and easy. Good. And then we'll take that down. Sometimes even just the ease of getting into this position can tell us a huge story of how this hip is functioning. Like this knee should be pretty relaxed in that big external rotation. Your adductors also provide some internal rotation through adductor magnus, the biggest, beefiest adductor you have. So when you can fall into this position, it tells us that your adductors have some mobility, and hopefully they have nice quality to the muscle, that there's a lot of blood flow, a lot of hydration, and it can bounce, and it can stay healthy, and it can heal if it gets overtaxed, right? To assume we're never going to pull a muscle is just naive. We're going to pull muscles, but the more mobility we have, the quicker we're going to heal and come back from that stuff. Okay, right side, just making sure your head's back. You can even toggle through your neck a little bit if you want. And good. All right, guys, Monday mobility. Consistency. There's 13 or 14 episodes in this library. You should be doing mobility daily, right? I meet you on Mondays for a really, really good start to your week. If you don't feel comfortable coming up with your own 10, 20, 15-minute mobility daily, and you can also go in little 5-minute chunks throughout your day, then you can definitely just refer back go back into the playlist of Mobility Monday, grab any session you want, and just follow along. I'm pretty consistent with my thought process and where we're going. We're definitely progressing as a group, but at the same time, I just want you to stay consistent with your movement. Once you start losing movement and muscle tone and muscle hydration and neural drive into muscles, that's when we start to having to come back and being super, super patient in the road back. But great studies have shown that you can do that all the way to your 90s. So our best strategy is never get behind on it. So hope you have an amazing week. Again, just massive congratulations to everybody who had an amazing weekend of just playing hard, being with friends and family. To those of you practicing the Jewish religion, I wish you just a very, very peaceful day of Yom Kippur. Okay, peace everybody.